Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday at 1 o'clock, so that must mean it's time for Livestream PD. Today we have an episode that I'm really excited to get to, so I'm going to get through my announcements really quickly. But today we have a guest teacher from Fremont, Bowen Lee, whose class I've had the pleasure of seeing a couple of times virtually, and I'm really excited for what we're going to do today. So at the end of, or maybe it's gone out already, but you will shortly be getting an email with the schedule for this year's Good Teaching Conference. It's February 26th. And there's the bit.ly. It should also be linked in that, but we can just take a quick look. It's bit.ly Alisol GTC, standing for Good Teaching Conference, all lowercase, 2021. Once again, bit.ly GTC, bit.ly Alisol GTC 2021, all lowercase. And we'll just jump over there for a quick sec to see what it looks like. If you remember the Alisol Tech Conference schedule, it should be very familiar. The times are across the top. We will have both Kid Booms, which are the kid presentations, and a short keynote from our very own, or formerly our very own, Miss Jeannie Herrick. So again, we have, for example, session 1, you have the title here where it says hover here. You don't have to click, just hover, and you can see the description, what are the levels, and then a brief description. If it's this sort of medium blue, the session may be recorded. In the red ones, it will not be recorded. That's the choice of the presenter. You can see the times here. The light blue or the bright blue are all creator labs. So remember, those are more hands-on sessions. And some of them where you see part 2, there is a part 1 in session 3. So it's meant to be the more make and take part of kind of a 2-part session. You don't have to go to the creator lab if you go to the part 1. There's nothing required. But if you do go to the creator lab, keep in mind the presenter's not going to reteach the whole session. So you probably either need to know something about it already, or should go to both if you plan on going to the creator lab. So there you are. Again, that session or that email will be coming. Once again, you can go here, bit.ly/Alisol GTC 2021 to get to the schedule. And I'm going to give everybody a second to just write that down, or to say, oh, I'm going to wait for an email. But honestly, don't get too into the schedule now, because we do have a really good session today. As we tell you with Ms. Bowen Lee, as we tell you every week, for any EdTech problems, please don't email any of the department members directly. Go to edtech@alisol.org. That's where you email the request. It goes to all of us, and it's the most timely way to get help. Additionally, open office hours are 1 to 3 p.m., Wednesdays and Thursdays. bit.ly/A Alisol, H help. Reminding you yet again that next week, because it is Good Teaching Conference, we will not be having a live stream on that day. We do want to tell you, however, that on March 5th, we will have Dr. Hernandez will be our special guest, and he will be bringing us an assessment update, which, if I understand correctly, things at the state and the national level are, Dr. Hernandez has to read lots of updates. Let's just put it that way. So now I'm very excited to be able to start turning this over to Miss Bowen Lee whenever she is ready. But I will say, while she's getting ready and while she's getting ready to come on, I will say one thing that's been interesting in my position is that because of helping teachers, either troubleshooting or just teachers wanting to show me things, I've actually gotten into a lot more virtual classrooms than I have gotten in other years to get into physical classrooms. And having seen Bowen's work virtually, having watched a couple of her class recordings, I can just say that she's a very impressive teacher, and that I hope you all get a lot out of this, because I think she's just fantastic. And now I'm going to stop talking. Take it away, Bowen.
Thank you so much, Josh. That's That's wonderful coming from you. Anyway, hello everybody. I'm Bowen Lee, second grade teacher at Fremont Elementary, LaSalle Union School District. Yes. And this is my self-reflection on remote learning. I hope that this will inspire you and encourage you to reflect upon your year so far in remote learning and maybe to share something after I do. If you would like a copy of this presentation, here's the bit.ly over here, and it will be again at the end of these slides. So I'm just going to launch into this. I love teaching. So I love shaping the future and creating the future that I hope that I will be able to have. So this is what, as a Buddhist, this is one of our key topics: to know your past, look at the present; to know your future, start with now. The moment is so important. 30 years ago, when I was a student teacher, my mentor teacher told me, teach them what you want them to know. They're going to take care of you in your old age. So I have always kept that in mind. And what's important for my students to know is, are they going to be able to run this world as a place of peace and harmony? So I'm a teacher in Salinas because I love the LaSalle, my students and their families, and the amazing people who work for the school district. I am so fortunate to have landed here. I just love this community because even though the parents of my students might not have the greatest education, Salinas has been charted as the second least educated city in the United States. Even if these parents don't have the education, they know and recognize the value of education for their children. So my job is essential to their welfare, and that's why parents have entrusted me with their children. It is a very important job that I have, and I love it. So everything was, like challenging beforehand, but all of a sudden it came coronavirus time, and we were going, what is this thing? We had no idea how it was going to affect us, um, how do you catch it? How do you stay away from it? Um, do, do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? What kind of mask do you use? How much do you have to be protected in order not to get it? And then if you get it, what's going to happen to you? Who can get it? We just had so many unknowns in the beginning. We just didn't know what was going to happen. So many uncertainties. And it happened so suddenly, it just felt like a war zone situation where everyone's running to shelter to escape the coronavirus bomb. So school closures, I know so many districts, school districts, so many teachers, so many students that just when schools closed, they were lost out there. There was no way to resume classes. They just didn't have school. But not in my school district. Alice, how strong. Oh, this is such a great community. Long ago, the district understood that in order for the children of this community to be able to be successful in the world, they had to be computer proficient. And so for years, we had every teacher had a computer, and so much professional training. Our ALISAL Ed Tech department did their very best to build a culture of technology in the school district. All of our children had a device to bring home, and we were taught how to use these tools before the coronavirus sent us all to our homes. So we hit the deck running. EdTech, thank you, Josh, who was our guidance and mapped it out for us and encouraged us the whole way. Oh my gosh! And George, who was so patient and every little technical aspect helped us along. And Celia, thank you so much for understanding about teachers and helping us. Thank you guys. Without you, this never would have been possible, and I am so proud of what you have done to make it possible for us to right away do something about schools closing. It's like, here's what was going on in my head. I teach 7 and 8-year-olds, and I can stand behind them in class and I can show them exactly what to do by pointing it out on their computers. But if I can't do that, how are they going to figure out what to do? And they don't even know what a seesaw is, much less how to use the program on the internet. Oh my gosh. But here's what Josh always told us: done is better than perfect. And we can do it. So you just had to believe that it was going to be possible. So we had to completely leave the schools. And on March 18th, I was ready to rock and roll. But I did not have internet installed in my home. And so until it could be installed, I was teaching in my car. And I just parked outside of where I knew there was reliable internet. I got into it and I started talking to my computer. I had no idea if the kids were going to be able to find out, how to reach me, or what they were supposed to do once they got there. I didn't know who was going to be there or nothing. It was just like me, a homeless teacher, teaching from my car. Okay, so I have had a little bit of trouble. Okay,
Hi, good morning. It's Ms. Lee, and she's sitting in her car to do her morning work today. Good morning, class. Today is Wednesday, March 18th, 2020. We can write the date as 3/18/20. Yesterday was Tuesday, and tomorrow will be Thursday. All right. So the morning work today is, here's our question. What is your favorite music? Why is this your favorite music? And what do you like to do when you hear your favorite music? Okay, so Ms. Lee's going to show you her favorite music. All right, here we go. Let's see. This is my favorite music. This is one of my favorite songs of all. And this song is about when somebody leaves you, like if they go far away, or even if they really, really leave you, like they die. They're still with you. And that's what the song says. We leave, but you are always with me.
Okay, so I just didn't know. Nobody knew what was actually going to be happening. eventually I got my stuff together and I did get internet in my house, and I took a part of the bedroom and I found furniture that people had left out in the street, found some chairs and a desk and stuck them in there, and I raided my classroom, and pretty soon I had a classroom at home. And what I found out is this is not easy. I'm not getting sleep. I haven't slept well since March. I work 8, 10, 12, 16-hour days sometimes because the work is never done. And everything takes so much longer to do. And my hair is turning white. And I look like a president of the United States who ages, like very quickly because of the burden of the office. There is a burden on me all the time. I am constantly thinking about how am I going to do this remote instruction. I feel like me and my students are landing a jet on an aircraft carrier every day. So it's like when you're when when you're trying to do remote instruction and you have something that you need the kids to learn so that they will learn what they need to in the second grade for their grade level so that they can go on to the next grade level. It's like looking for a tiny speck on the ocean. And on that tiny little speck, you have to land. You have to get there. And you hope that you're going to do it without missing it or going over it or crashing into it. So I have to do this every day. I have to look for that, like this is what they're going to learn. Let's get there. And the students have to do this every day. Okay, we have a computer, we have all this wonderful technology, we have these great programs and software, but it's still not easy to get where we need to be in order to learn what we need for our grade level. Okay, so, and then there are challenges. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the other slide for a little bit. So there are the everyday challenges of just online learning. But then because it was such a strange year last year during the pandemic, there are a couple of extra challenges. So I'm looking at Seesaw, and one of my students posted an assignment where she takes a video of herself talking about why we have the coronavirus. And the reason why we have the coronavirus is because Chinese eat dogs and cats. So teach them what you want them to know.
I am not a virus. A poem to the guy who tried to run me over with his truck. I was crossing the street in my neighborhood. This white truck stops at the intersection. It starts turning as I'm still in the middle of the street. I'm thinking he'll slow down, but he doesn't. In fact, the driver turns the wheel and heads straight for me. He's looking straight at me. He's not smiling. I hurry up and get out of the way just as he nearly brushes against me. Then he speeds off down the street. I don't have to wonder why. It has to be somebody's fault. All this social distancing, all this sheltering in place, all this wear a mask, stand 6 feet apart, lose your job, get sick, and die. Is it my fault? There's no such thing as a Chinese virus. What are you trying to do to blame us? Don't you know there are no boundaries? A virus doesn't have a nationality. Maybe the first person to get it was Chinese, but don't mean all the Chinese trying to hurt you. Maybe the first to get it was a Chinese person, but it don't mean all the Chinese are trying to hurt you. If it started in a country, would you blame the people? Just think about how wrong that would be to blow all those people. It started in Africa, they call you racist. If it started in Latin America, they call you racist. If it started in Europe, they say it wasn't fair. So what do you think it is to blame Asians for it, when nobody knows for sure when and where it started? This isn't new to us. Asians have been discriminated against for 200 years in the USA. In 1858, California prohibits Chinese immigration. In 1870, Chinese cannot be citizens. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act stops Chinese immigration in the US. In 1905, marriage between whites and Chinese is illegal. 1924, Asian Exclusion Act stops all Asians from entering the US. These laws were not lifted until 1954. But this is what we did anyway. We built the railroads.
Okay, so I'm going to fast forward a little bit to the end.
That's within. Don't put someone down because of where they're from. We're all human beings. We are all one human race. It's no disgrace. Black lives matter, brown lives matter, Asian lives matter, all lives matter.
Okay, so I was very happy this year to be able to show my students the president and the first lady giving an announcement on Lunar New Year that there is a White House memorandum that there shall be no discrimination or racism against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to help to rectify what happened last year. So that was a wonderful thing for me, and I was very touched, and I was glad that I was able to show my students that. I do love a challenge. So the important thing is what you do from now. Are you going to be discouraged and allow yourself to fall into despair? Or will you regard this as an opportunity to rise up courageously, determined not to be beaten? Your inner resolve is what decides your happiness or unhappiness. This is my Buddhist mentor, Daisaku Ikeda. So I take on a challenge gladly, because what it means is that I want to be a happy person. So I'm not going to let anything hold me back or keep me from what I know needs to be done. This picture, by the way, is my partner and my dog, and this is one of the beauties for me, of remote instruction. My time is more or less flexible, and whenever I can, I get out into nature. We live in such a beautiful place, and so I always try to take good care of myself, physically and mentally and emotionally, socially and spiritually. And it is just, I wouldn't have that opportunity if I was working in a classroom at school. But I have a little bit more flexibility, and I take it in order to do what makes me what gives me peace. Yeah, remote instruction is a challenge, but the reason I keep plugging away is because if I do, so will my students. And if I keep going on because they need to. Whenever my students flounder or I'm losing them, I let them know that I care about them. My watchwords are show them that you care constantly. And it has to be clear you care. And it isn't always nice and gentle. Andrew, get out of bed. Oh my goodness. Every day you're in bed. Do you see over there Marcos? He's in bed too, and he's got a head on his pillow. Well, he's got a good reason. He fell down yesterday and hit his head on a rock, and the doctor says you have a bump on your head. So he's got a good reason for being in bed. Andrew, did you fall down yesterday? Did you see the doctor? Do you have a bump on your head? Get out of bed. The words you say and the things you do are significant. Sometimes you don't even know why. Okay, guys, you're going to go get your materials. And remember, you're going to have a lot of materials. I mean, the bag is so huge. It's as big. The bag is as big as you guys. It's as big as an emperor penguin. So bring a car or bring someone to help you. What's that you say? Oh, okay, Gabriel. You say, oh, it's only you and your mother and your dad left. Oh, okay. Well, that's all right. Your mom can do it. Your mom is strong. Your mom can handle that. Yeah, don't worry. You and your mom can do that. Later on, Gabriel says to me, oh, look at my chocolate box that I got for Valentine's Day. This is yours, teacher. I love you. I didn't know that that's what was going to happen just because I said his mom was strong. For it to be clear you care, you really have to care. You are there for them and they have to know it. Oh, sí, señora. Monday. Oh, por qué es Esteban llorando? Oh, Esteban, I am so sorry I made you cry. I didn't mean to make you sad. But um, if you have your paragraph doesn't have sentences with capital letters and periods, then I want to point that out so that you can change it and make it better. Um, is anybody else here um, uh, forget to put capital letters and periods in their sentences? Look, look, Esteban, everyone's going thumbs up. Okay, so what we do is we're showing everybody so they can fix that too. And that's something that they learned. Hey, everybody, do you think that Esteban is bad because um, he didn't put capital letters and a period at the end of his sentences? Look, Esteban, everyone's saying, no, no. Thank you, Esteban, for making those mistakes, because now we can learn from them. You did a good job, and those mistakes can be fixed, and that's what we want to be able to do. It's a challenge, but let them know that you care. Connect. Engaging students means being connected to them. Do it constantly. And if I don't, then losing them means that what I'm doing isn't working, and I keep trying to find what does work. And making connections for them means that they have a handhold so they can grasp onto learning. So I'm always having this conversation with myself about remote instruction. I'm having this conversation with myself, my students, and colleagues to figure out how do I do remote instruction. So, oh, I just want to say one thing about my colleagues. I love Fremont. I love Fremont because everyone there is so supportive. And the reason is because our why, our teaching why is it's for the kids. And so we encourage each other all the time. We help each other out. We give each other support. It's just a wonderful place to work. Even when our connection is only through a chat or only through the internet. Yes, thank you, Fremont staff. You guys rock. So is remote instruction different than classroom instruction? Yes. Is it worse? Yes. Is it better? Yes. If you look at remote instruction as good or bad, you have conflicting issues. And then what results is that you have chaos in here. So this has been my prayer every day. It's not that it's good. It's not that it's bad. It is what it is. Be fair, be tender, be wise, be kind. Always care. This is a journey we are on. Experience it for the adventure it is. Enjoy the ride. So I hope that this has ignited something for you as far as self-reflection, and I hope that you can share your experience too after me. So thank you very much. Safe journeys.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lee. And I actually am going to take a moment to just give a little bit of backstory. I say we in the department, we had heard through different avenues about some things that Ms. Lee had shared with folks before, and rumor had gotten out. And so people had heard, and then stories were shared, and eventually it got to the ed tech department, who's in charge of Livestream PD. And so here we are now. And so I want to appreciate Ms. Lee for taking us up on the offer to share her story, and to emphasize that it is one person's story, and we've all experienced the last year very differently. And if you read the description for today's session that we sent out, one of the biggest things has been for all of us, right, is, as Ms. Lee mentioned also, how to maintain that connection to people and connect with our own and each other's humanity, even though we're not around each other. Like, I can't give my colleagues cookies now anymore. Josh knows. Like, I just don't see him. And you may not see your colleagues in person, and you don't see your students in person, and the times can make it a little challenging and different to stay connected. But I appreciate Ms. Lee being here to give us that little bit of reminder.
I vehemently and wholeheartedly concur, and all the other superlatives that I can heap upon you, Bowen. But in addition, and I'm going to copy and paste these into an email for you, but your colleagues in the comments and the questions, nobody has questioned. Well, Mr. Rains asked if he could have your slides again. So I guess that's a question, but everyone else is. So Miss Moreno from Montebella said, not a question. I want to give a shout out to the presenter. I love her passion for our students and our community. Miss Gonzalez from Frank Paul said, just a big shout out to Bowen Lee, sharing inclusive strategies we can use in our classes. Great reminder, even with remote can be tough. We're all human. You never know who you are influencing. Our students also have their own stories to tell, and we can encourage them to do so through this. What a great job. And just to echo my own thing, to troubleshoot something with Bowen, I got her recording for the day, and I had to go through and find it, but I kept stopping to find the problem thing to see, oh, what's she doing here? And oh, those kids look really involved here. Like, this community culture she builds in her class is legit. It's I've seen it. It's not, she's not just talking. She walks the walk is what I'm saying. And you can always when I taught middle school, you could always see what a culture really was like when the teacher had to step out for a second, and Bowen had to leave her meet while her kids were still in it for a second, and you could see their community and their positive behavior, and she'll be right back, and very encouraging. It's like that video that went around where all the kids start talking about toast when the teacher loses internet. They didn't talk about toast, but it was just as positive. It was really clear that they were there for her, and that she was there for them as well. So lots of very complimentary things. Miss Anderson, I'm not going to try, from Barden, I'm not going to try to read that live. I'm just going to forward that along to her because I'm not sure what language that is, but it's not English and it's not Spanish. So I see you, Cindy Anderson, but I'm not going to butcher a language on the internet. So there you go.
That being said, we want to give everybody a chance to do some reflection themselves who's watching. And so on your screen, you should see a bit.ly. If you get to that bit.ly, you're going to get to Padlet. You can think of Padlet as kind of like a corkboard, and then you're going to add your sticky notes to it, but we're all going to do it collaboratively so you can, again, we can reflect together on the last year. And so I'm going to leave that up because I know we're a little bit delayed, but again, the intent here is to have everybody now take some time to think about the last year and reflect together. And so if you've never used Padlet before, I'll demonstrate in just a second, but I want to leave the address up again for anybody. But it is fairly self-explanatory, just in the sense that I think it was like 5 or 6 questions up at the top, and under each question, you'll see a little box where you can add your response. Eventually, you're going to start to see other people's responses because it is collaborative. But again, think of it as just like a corkboard, and you're just adding your own post-it to it. The questions are for your own reflection, but of course, Josh and I will be reading some out loud to share with you. And I mean, you don't have to answer them in any particular order. They don't necessarily need to be work-related. We just want to take some time to reflect on the past year.
Yeah. And people are starting to fill that in.
Okay.
So that's great.
If you need if we need the address, we can definitely put it back up, but I'm going to take it down for now, just to maybe start off with some of these questions. But again, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, Celiar, you don't have to go in order. I just this is a very the first question is very well attended to, and just sometimes as teachers we're such rule followers, we have to go in order. You can go in whatever order you want, by the way, just saying. True.
Yes. I forgot I was going to mention. Oh, okay. So if you're on the Padlet, again, looks like plenty of us are already on there. If you'll notice that I made it so that it is anonymous. If you happen to be logged in with your account like I am, if you have a Padlet account, or you can use Google to log in, it will attach your account to your response. But you could always log out if you would like it to be anonymous. If you want to add your name, you could just add it. You write manually after you type in. But if you're on the screen, again, just click the little plus sign under the 6 questions. If you don't see 6 questions, it's probably just a matter of your screen size. And so there are 6. You probably might have to scroll to the right to see maybe the 5th or 6th question. Again, just depending on your screen size. Looking good. Okay, so we're gonna take a little bit of time, maybe 5-10 minutes, to give you time to think through these, but Josh and I will also be reading through some of these out loud. And so if anybody prefers to, for example, write these out on a piece of paper, please feel free to do so. Again, the intent here was to share together, but again, if you'd rather not and you'd rather just keep it to yourself, piece of paper, that's fine. I know some people prefer doing things like sketch notes right? So if you're thinking more visually, graphically, instead of something that is more text, please feel free to do that. The questions will be there for you to reflect on. I wonder if we should go in order. I feel like maybe we shouldn't go in order just because everybody else did.
What, you and I discussing them? Yeah,
Yeah.
let's. You just pick an order, or like roll a die, and we'll start there.
I'm going to start with the second question. What do you first remember? What do you remember about first hearing of in shelter in place back in March 2020? What do you remember about that day? Josh,
I have a really, what do I remember about first hearing? I have a very clear memory of being called into an emergency meeting at the Frank Paul Family Resource Center with Mr. Koenig, most of cabinet, a bunch of principals, when County Office of Ed and the County Health Department said, this is what it's going to be. We don't exactly know what it means. What do we need to do to get ready? And me like frantically formulating and writing emails and sending out, I don't know if anybody remembers me sending out emails instructing everybody, make sure your kid's in a Google Classroom or a Seesaw Classroom, that we're going to be closing schools and this is how we're going to be connected to them. And that Friday the 13th, Friday, March 13th, I have a very clear memory of that meeting and the action items that came out of that meeting and how much we knew we weren't going to have clear answers for people.
Right. Someone remembers. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I lost it because there's so many responses, but somebody remembers George Lopez about that day and how, I'm trying to find it again. Oh, here it is. George Lopez helped me get my kids ready in my classroom. What a lifesaver. And actually, I can attest to that because I remember that day. And we all got the notice so like late in the day, right? And so I remember like coaches were sent back from a meeting, like, nope, they need you at your sites. And like Josh had like tried to warn us and like give us a little bit of a heads up, but like that heads up was like that same day. And then that afternoon it was like, okay, it's on, we're going, no more in person. And I remember George going out to at least a couple different sites, helping people get set up, get the accounts going, like just connected. So George, people remember you being a part of that day in a very positive light.
If I may.
Of course.
No, not.
Yeah. You know, I'm taking a personal day, but I just, you know, I was so moved by Ms. Bowen's presentation when I first saw it, when I heard about it from somebody else, and that's how we got her to be here. But definitely, I think, you know, Josh, you know, you were an amazing leader trying to prepare us for this. So thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, can we show the bit.ly for the Padlet again real quick? We've gotten a request. Thank you, Jordan. It's very kind of you to say. I didn't mean to go over it, but you know what it's like running the live stream, trying to be responsive. Is that what stands out? Is that the first thing that you remember, Celia? It's just the.
I think what stands out to me is like the late notice. It was a sense of like frenzy. Like I think we got an email at 2:00 in the afternoon and it's like
Late, yeah.
But the kids are dismissed at 2:40 and like people were outside for PE and like I don't know about y'all, but when I'm teaching, I'm not constantly checking my email. And it was just like, it was such short notice that everybody was scrambling. And people in the office and clerks and secretaries and principals and admin trying to make copies for that letter that went home. And it was a lot. That's what just like.
Can we go to the question, what's the biggest lesson you've learned this year? Because
yes,
there are two answers here. One is that our students can do so much more than we thought they could do. Watch out, middle school. Can I just say, I'm so glad that we are not the middle school IT or ed tech, because I think we're sending them a bunch of very tech savvy kids. And I think the shenanigans will just get even more so. And then there's another one, and Stephanie Coffin, whose name is attached, I'm not trying to call her out, but has two responses. So the comment is, it's so much easier to do these one-on-one assessments via Google Meet, no other students in the room to manage. Stephanie says two things: how little control I truly have over my students, and the carrot is far more effective than the stick. And like, I always think Stephanie has very smart things to say, and I think that's true. And I think like the control we thought we had over kids in the classroom was probably more illusory than we thought before. But yeah. What's the biggest thing that you think you've learned, Celia? Or is there an answer here that's standing out for you?
What I appreciate, and I am always glad to remember this last for me. At this point, I don't know who to attribute it to, but letting things that I don't have control over is one thing that somebody added, and I think that resonates. Not so much that it's something I've learned, but something that I keep having to remind myself of, is that the idea of surrender for me is one that I have a hard time with, just me personally, and on so many levels. Let's not get into them. But I said, let's not get into them.
All I did was laugh. I'm not getting into anything.
And so it's a good lesson. Like, some things I just don't have control over, and I feel like I'm better at that. I'm better at just surrendering and letting go, and just like, you know what? It's not worth it. It's not worth my sanity.
I would definitely have to echo that. I think, and I'm sure that some of the teachers watching or the people watching will echo this, is the idea of Bowen said that she remembers me saying done is better than perfect, and I say that all the time, and half the time I'm saying it to myself, because like, it's so easy to feel unsatisfied or unhappy with something because it wasn't exactly how you thought it would be, or how you wanted it to be, or how you thought of it, or how you think it should be. Should, it can be a very dangerous word when we're learning to accept the things we can't control. But that's not how it should be. Well, according to who? Or according to what? So yeah, getting past my should, getting over my should, and just like, yep, that's not how I would have wanted that to go in a perfect world, but that's how it is. So yeah, I again, not that I didn't know that before. I think it's just like, you have to be reminded to, like, hey, remember this? It's still here.
I want to read some of these. Not to a third question, what has been the biggest challenge for you over the past year? Not to per se like focus on challenges, but it's a conversation that we've had, or I've had with a couple of people, just in terms of like, it hasn't been easy. And that's, the struggle is part of the story, and I find value in like hearing that we all are facing challenges, and it can be comforting to know that you're not in it by yourself, so to speak. So yeah, I'm gonna look through these. Yeah, I think that this one's probably one that a lot of us would agree with, just in terms of like, not, someone writes, not hugging my mom who's elderly and not seeing extended family at all, and especially not seeing them on holidays, watching my son's experience in the pandemic.
There are a lot of different versions of not being able to interact with students, colleagues, family in person due to COVID. Yesterday in a different workshop in a breakout room, we were talking about this weird paradox of, especially those of us who are extroverts, missing people and missing gatherings, and yet being so COVID aware that you're nervous about them, or like, why aren't you wearing a mask? That sort of thing. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, there's at least half a dozen versions of that. Not being around the kids in person, not being around my colleagues in person, not being around my family in person.
Yeah.
And for some of us, like, that was where all of our in-person social interaction happened, was at work, and then it went away.
Josh, what has been the biggest challenge for you?
That one's been hard. I live by myself, so I don't know how many people know this, but for like our first 2 weeks, it felt like we were in this building 12 hours a day for 2 weeks or something. We were here a lot. You, me, George.
It's because we were, Josh.
Stephen and Adi. And it was, and then Celia would make us stop working and eat lunch together. Because otherwise we would have just kept working through the whole day. So then when we all started working from home more, that was actually the not having any, because, you know, I live by myself. So that was actually pretty difficult and pretty challenging for me, personally. Professionally was going back to that like feeling, wanting to support our teachers and admin the best way we could, while feeling pulled in like 19,000 directions, and feeling like none of it was, not even to the meets, definitely not meeting expectations, but not even to the good enough or to the minimally acceptable. For a while, it really felt that way. I don't know that that's true, but I think it was just, you know, like how it's hard to not help kids who are struggling, like when it's on SBAC or CASP or whatever we call it, and you're not supposed to help them with it, but you have that instinct. It's the same thing with teachers. Like, I think we were doing the best we could and the most we could, but I don't know that they all felt completely supported that way.
Thanks for sharing.
Sure. What about you? What was your biggest challenge over the past year?
A sense of overwhelm. And this was like the weirdest day to have it. By weird, I mean perfect. Just putting that out there. It's the weirdest day to have this session because it's a day of remembrance for Japanese internment, in case anybody wasn't aware. And so we have this topic, and I'm like trying to keep in touch with people that I know in Texas, and like the socio-political climate in the world is like on my mind all the time, and like on top of work, on top of this, on top of that. It's sometimes life can be overwhelming. And I feel like the last year has been especially special. So yeah, it's just a lot to do
in
with.
like all the ways, right? If it had just been COVID, that still would have been deep. I was feeling like, I was thinking about this the other day. I feel like our gauge for what is overwhelming like has changed, because global pandemic, political and social unrest, and it's like, oh, really? Only one of those things would have felt overwhelming before, but turns out you can live through all of them all at the same time.
Right. Yeah, definitely. On that note, I purposely, with intention, made sure to include this last question on this Padlet as we wrap this up. What are we looking forward to? Because again, things are different now, but when exactly, we don't know when things will change, but that's the only constant. Things are going to keep changing. And so what are we looking forward to? Let's see what people wrote. Traveling, huh? Yeah.
There's one that says going to Disneyland, but I file that under traveling, and I can say same.
Hugs. Just like it's great. Like looking forward to being able to walk around the kids to spot when they have a question and being able to help. Fist bumps in PE. You know what? Yes, I understand that completely.
Do you see Alyssa Gonzalez's? When it's so, I'm looking forward to bringing a lot more SEL on the reg. I felt like morning meeting was something I always wanted to do in person, but never had the time for. Also, seeing my best friend, I haven't seen her since January of 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hugging, singing, group activities, holiday activities, family, friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Just going to be able to sit and eat in a restaurant. Simple.
Concerts, music.
Canada.
Field trip to Canada, everybody. Oh my goodness. Anywho. Yeah, so again, trying to close off with something to look forward to, for sure. So I'm gonna make sure that when I update our website, I'll make sure I link this Padlet to have everybody, to give everybody access to it. If anybody's watching asynchronously later, once this is posted on the website, you'll still have access to it. I'll leave it open for a little bit so that people can still contribute and read through responses. I'll also make sure to include Miss Lee's presentation. She sent us the link, so I will make sure to get that on there. That being said, Josh, I'm not sure if you had anything else to close or if we can just say goodbye from here.
Only to say that if you have enjoyed Bowen today, she is presenting at the Good Teaching Conference next Friday. And other than that, we hope you have a great weekend. As we say every time, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, be good to our kids. Have a great weekend. We'll see you in 2 weeks on the live stream back again. Thank you and goodbye.